Hello Grand Archive players, let's answer a rules question. How does Imbue work? In this video, we'll be going through various interactions of the Imbue mechanic. Here's a list of today's topics in case you'd like to skip ahead to the bits that you're interested in. First, what does Imbue mean? When you activate a card with Imbue, you may choose to reserve the cards in your memory used to pay the activation cost revealed, that is, face up instead of face down as normal. If you reserved at least a certain number of cards that match the activated card's element, that activation becomes imbued. For objects, whether or not an object is imbued is a persistent state of that object. If you suppressed an imbued object, for example a windmill engineer, would it still be imbued when it returns to the field? The answer is no. The state of being imbued does not carry across zones. So when the windmill engineer enters banishment, it ceases to be imbued, and will also not be imbued when it returns to the field. Cards must be activated in order to be imbued. Next question. How does Imbue interact with cost-changing effects? Remember that Imbue asks you to reveal all the cards you reserve. So if you wanted to imbue a windmill engineer with a Dawn of Ashes in play, you'd have to reveal all 3 cards used to pay the reserve cost, but only 2 of them need to match the element of the activation. If you reduce the activation cost, such as by resolving an Exeosite beforehand, you'd actually be completely unable to imbue a windmill engineer, since you'd only be paying 1 reserve, and you'd be able to reserve 1 wind card at most. Compare this to trying to imbue this card, Cultivate, which has a reserve cost of 2, but imbue 1. Even if you reduce this card's cost by 1, you'd still be able to imbue 1. Naturally, any card played without paying its activation cost with preserved cards couldn't be imbued. Can you imbue an activation such as Splashing Spearguard with a reservable object of the correct element such as this Fractal of Snow? The answer is, you can't. Imbue will check only the cards reserved to pay the activation cost. In this case, only 2 water cards were revealed, and this imbue requires 3. Does imbuing count as revealing cards to enable triggers from Luxem cards? The answer is unfortunately no. The game does not consider imbuing to be the game action of revealing. Think of it this way, in order to reveal a card, it must previously have been face down, then turn face up. Imbue causes the reserved cards to enter memory already revealed, even if that's not typically how people physically play it. Lastly, how does Imbue interact with Nullifying Mirror? Let's say your opponent activates and imbues a windmill engineer. Can you prevent that activation from being imbued? The answer is no. The state of being imbued was set upon activation, and by the time you had opportunity to respond to that activation, it's already been imbued. Changing the element of the cards in memory at this point will not affect the activation that's already been made. In order to deny imbue to your opponent, you would have to resolve Nullifying Mirror's effect before they activated the imbue card. So try using your mirror preemptively in their materialization or pre-recollection phase. This would prevent any imbues from that player for the rest of the turn. Well, prevent any non-norm imbues at least. And that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.